Welcome to Paint Yourself into the Picture, Healing Conversations to help us create the most brilliant and fulfilling picture of our lives. I'm Reba Linker, best-selling author, life coach, and manifesting guru, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's guest is part of our Healing Outside the Box series. Gary Sinclair is an author of Healing Memories in Seconds. He's considered by many a genius and a leading creator of healing therapies. Some of his latest teachings include soul link, awareness in consciousness, memory, energy therapy, healing, and much more. Gary, it is great to have you here.
Well, thank you. I've looked forward to this one because we were both in the same Natural Awakening magazine feature monthly article. So, just the fact that Linda had tied us all together after she herself had looked at what I'm doing for training and said, well, and has now gone through full certification. So very, very much realize the value of having this connection with you as well. So pleasure. Love you to life.
Thank you. And it makes me, we were speaking the other day and Linda was saying, you've got to meet Gary, you've got to see more about what he's doing. So basically this is perfect because I know very little. And so along with my audience, we're going to actually get a better understanding. How did this whole healing journey begin for you, first of all?
Okay, wow. Well, this is going to be an interesting week because regardless of what you see on the screen, I will be 72 by the end of the week.
Wow.
I was born in 1945 with only partial lungs. When I say partial, there were 2 lungs there, but they were only 50% there. That made for a lot of complications in life because anybody born with a lung condition ends up being severely allergic to most things like trees, grass, plants, flowers, Makes you wonder what I ate. Still today, there are times when I wonder what I ate, but obviously here I am. So as a severe asthmatic, as a severe, allergy and all, it meant that I pretty much had a protected life simply because I had to be. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere alone. I wasn't allowed to be alone. Matter of fact, I laugh because I can still remember at age 42 being somewhere where I realized I'm absolutely alone. I can't see anyone anywhere. And inside I panicked and went running trying to find people. It was that strange a feeling to realize how I had lived such a protected around people life simply because of the volatileness of having only 2 lungs that were partially there. Literally, people get a bee sting and they can end up going to the hospital. I get a bee sting, it's going to kill me. I was that volatile for everything that had gone on. Well, that was a good beginning. I made it all the way through to where I went to college. The only difference is when I graduated from college, I had met a wonderful lady that we now call Saint Anne because she had to be a saint to live through what we've lived through together. And literally, as we started a family of 2 small children immediately after college, I ended up in Valentine's Day, around the age of 22, developing a new condition. I sat up on a bed, fell over on the floor, and all I could think of is, wow, this is like my dad that had a stroke. They worked with him, and they got all this motion back and so forth, because I've lost the feeling, a lot of it on the left-hand side of my body. My eyes are really funny because everything I'm looking at, I'm seeing 2 of, and they're jumping up and down, like my heart beats. It jumps up and down. I realized I'm not really hearing everything exactly the way I thought I would out of my left ear. Something's weird. So I used my arms to try to push myself to sit upright. And the Weeble toys, Weeble wobble where we don't fall down. I was the exact reverse of a Weeble toy because the minute I took my right arm up and my left arm really wasn't working that well, I'd go right back down to the floor because I couldn't stay upright. I couldn't find upright. It was just so weird. Well, I'm going to make it short because in the course of a month in the hospital, they did 2 spinal taps and finally diagnosed me as now having multiple sclerosis.
Wow.
Over the course of the next 14 years, my lungs progressed to where I have 1/3 lung capacity. I get to where in my body, the only thing that finally really moves, that's left to move, is what I'm holding up in the air, my right arm. I get to where I realize the spoon that I get my food on to try to eat is such that I can't quite get it to my mouth and still wear the watch that my father had given me when they stormed the beaches of Normandy.
Wow.
So my wife was determined that what the doctors would really do is they would nicely put me on a antidepressant because obviously Gary didn't think he's going to be around much longer. If he's that much gone, He's only got 1/3 lung capacity. What's left to atrophy inside of me? I mean, think about it, you know. Depression was my adversary, obviously, because I had no way to know how to get beyond it because I didn't see a future. I saw the desperation of being in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, people carrying me or pushing me. You know, it's a terrible thing when somebody says, why is the floor wet? And you take your good hand and you push it down between your legs and realize it's wet because it's me. But you don't know it in advance. So it's quite the life. You know, it's quite the time period to have gone through. But obviously, wonderfully, there's a period in there, and of course I can tell it on the website. They can get the rest of the story. But obviously, I got to a point where God graciously, over the course of 16 months, made a change in my life.
Wow.
I told all my friends that if God promised us the desires of our heart, then obviously he's either a liar or a fake. So I'm going to put the test to, I want to live, I want to walk, I want to breathe, I want to become a figure skating champion, I want to speak, I want to travel, I want to do on and on and on and on. And over the course of the next 16 months of working on what I felt I needed to do in order to heal, I pretty much became the way you see me today.
It's incredible.
The only thing that didn't heal in that time period was my lungs. And I already had an appointment to where 6 months after the getting to where I could tell you I no longer had MS. Again, there's so much more to the story. But I had to go in and have my blood work done again because the levels of theophylline, the levels of medication they had me on, and the levels that I took every 4 hours around the clock would kill you if you just decided to pick it up and take it. I mean, the levels were just horrendous.
Yeah.
Again, it's all in the story. But obviously, something had to change. And in the end, I have to admit, God miraculously gave me full lung capacity, all the way to new bone structure that lifted up in a course of 15 minutes, with plenty of confirmation ahead of time that when I took communion that Sunday at church, it would be a done deal. So, yeah.
No, you have to say more about that part, because it's like you're sick, and then God healed you. But wait, stop!
No, it's why I do what I do today. It's why I teach what I teach.
What are you saying? What did you do differently? What happened?
At the time, I couldn't answer you, but obviously I had a line of people that wanted the answers, but I didn't have them. What I did is I began to study anything out there that had to do with the energetics of the body. One of the things I seemed to clearly understand was that everybody identifies as being a physical being, but I'm not a physical being. I can tell you about a 10-year-old memory, but I can't show you my 10-year-old body. So obviously, one of the things about me is real. The other thing is fictitious. So the identity of a body was the thing that I had to give up. I had to begin to recognize that who I am is what the energy is that's produced every time the heart beats. And if that's who I am, then that's what's holding on to whatever's wrong with the body. I used to sit in the wheelchair and look up at the ceiling and say, God, if you love me, you'd heal me. And it was interesting because I've had a voice in my head for decades. And there are times when I'll say something or think something and that voice will answer back. And I have a way of knowing that I recognize that voice. It really sounds like mine, the way I hear it. But I recognize that I'm not really thinking the thought it's being given to me. If there's a pause between what I think and what comes, I really have to question it because I can't count on it being as true as to what those other thoughts are. So I'd say, God, if you love me, you'd heal me. And the voice would continue and say, and if you loved yourself, you'd heal. Did you hear what I said? If you loved yourself, you'd heal. So I think probably the biggest thing that I learned was that love pulls whatever it touches towards its highest potential. Wow. If you want to meet the Creator, feel your heart. Wow. You are what that next beat is, because when it doesn't beat, you're no longer it. The identity that you've given yourself in physicality goes right out into the dirt somewhere else. You're just not there.
This has so much to do with being in the present, because there is no future. There just is that heartbeat, that
exactly
now.
There is that now, and it creates a whole composite of who you are. So again, because of everything that took place, I researched every therapy out there. I don't care what it was. People will say to me, if you had to give it all back in sequential order so that there was one last thing left, what would it be? And I have to admit, it would be my NLP training, because I'm a master certified trainer in neurolinguistics. But it was such a beautiful understanding of people energetically at a level that I got it, even though there are times when I'm in certification trainings when I think, oh, if they only understood, they don't get what they're talking about because they're still dealing with the physicality of the human and they don't understand. We're one heartbeat away from not being human. So what's the real of who we are?
So what's the key to, is it just the understanding that's the key to changing from one heartbeat to the next? Is that the key to?
Very, very much a part of it. When you understand, God promised you the desires of your heart. Would you agree with that?
I certainly would.
Hey, have you ever looked at the work of Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force?
No, I haven't.
Definitely write it down and look it up. David set up calibrated levels of looking at enlightenment, where people are on the face of the earth, where the leadership is, calibrated books, movies, you name it. But did a beautiful job of looking at the energetics of where it calibrates on a scale of 0 to 1,000. And the thing that it validates is it validates the fact of where people live, where their mindset is, and where they're at, without understanding that at the other than conscious level, at the very level of your heart, at the other than conscious level, there has always existed in you a connection to Creator. There's always been an existence in you of something that you don't control. It controls you and provides life. But that piece that does that, from my perspective, is an obedient servant who makes literal truth out of everything that you say or think as a direct command of action about you.
So for good or for evil.
Even if it's a lie about someone else. Think about that. God said, I promise you the desires of your heart. The only gift we were given complete responsibility for is thought. The only occupation we have in life is thinking. And what we pay attention to creates who we are. What we have paid attention to stores energetically who we become.
Right.
So in realizing all that and everything that I went through, I knew that at the level of the heart, every thought that I was thinking, no matter what it was going into that level of awareness and therefore manifesting back into me that which I would be, had been, and now will become. Because of that, I obviously made the choice to become love living. Why not?
Why not?
The whole world's love seeking. I mean, I understand the world has loved us to death. I can't live there. I don't want to be there. I'm not in any relationship where I choose to have that energy be what flows through me. Because as long as I can be and present to you or others that which I recognize as the very presence of that which causes me to have life, then I represent who my Creator is, as to the best of my ability. You know, I don't have a choice as to whether it be, or if I do, I choose not to change it. Let me just grab a drink here for a second. Excuse me. I choose not to change it, but the key is, if it's given to me the way it's given, then it's given to me because it loves me so much that it keeps me here. And
So tell me though, you have a modality that you call healing memories.
Oh, sure.
So we do get trauma, let's say locked into cellular memory. How do you heal? You claim to heal it very quickly, like instantly.
Yeah,
beautiful. Tell us a little bit about that.
Because the key is what that beat is. Not only does it love you, but it is unconditional love because there's no strings attached. So if what it creates is the energy field of who you are, and we all have an energy field around us. Are you familiar with the work of Heart Math Institute?
No.
Oh, please write that one down. HeartMathInstitute.com. They're the people that looked at decades ago, proving the fact that there's a brain that's within the heart. They're the people that have done all the statistical data on looking at how one person energetically affects another. There's a lot involved in all that study. But what I began to understand was that when that heart beats, it produces an energy field around you of who you are as the identity of that energy, as whole higher self, or awareness and consciousness. That energy is 5,000 times stronger than what the brain or the mind produces on its own. You were born with a brain, a mind function here that really was started on a negative basis. It's there for the preservation of who you are. Mm-hmm. If you had to consider the entire energy field as being 5,000 positive, what's up here is basically 100 negative. Now that's a strange ratio, but thank God the power of the positive has the ability to prevent the power of the negative from destroying. So now here's the key. You are but an energy field. So if you will learn that you can use that energy field and change, then it makes sense. Do me a favor. Take your thumb and just rub it right into one of your hands. Rub it right in there. Make sure you really feel it beginning to burn a little bit in there, because all I'm doing is I want you to wake up an energy vortex in the center of your hand. Now switch and do it to the other hand. Now let's have some fun. Take your hands and put them out there in such a way that there's the same amount of space between your fingertips and the base of your hand. Mm-hmm. Fingers are nicely relaxed and round. It's like holding a round ball that a child would hold. Now slowly intend to feel anything that's possible to feel between your hands, but simply begin to move them apart and back together. All of a sudden you'll realize there's a feeling of pulling something apart and pushing it back together. Guess what that is?
Energy.
It's the feel-good party because you're feeling yourself.
Uh-huh.
This is the real you. This is that flow of field of you as awareness and consciousness as a whole. This is the identifier that when you go to the hospital and they do a scan, this is what they're actually reading and measuring, is this energy field of who you are.
Okay. So
now let's think in terms of, go ahead.
How do we heal the trauma from the past then?
Okay. So think in terms of a structure of 1 to 10 for memories. Okay, 1 to 10. Okay. 10 memories are things that are absolutely life-changing. 9s can be. Up to 8s, we live with them. We know they happen. We make changes in our life, but they don't turn around and cause us to go in another direction like the trauma does. I want you to go all the way down and think in terms of something that's in the 3 to 4 range. It's minor, 3 to 4.
Okay.
Find a memory for you that you can think of that's in the 3 to 4 range, so it's minor, but I want you to make sure that as you recognize that memory now, that you know that it has a negative influence to it. Okay. I want you to be able to feel the emotions and feelings that are there. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to do the same thing you did with your hands, create the same ball.
Uh-huh.
Remember how you felt that space in the middle?
Yeah.
The only difference now is I want you to think about that memory, look right into the space that's there in the middle of your hands, and as you look into that space, continue to think about that memory, but allow your hands to come apart slowly and back together as you stare right into the space and think about the memory. Allow them to come apart and back together. Allow them to do that at least 3 times. Still thinking about the memory. One more time. Now on the 4th time, what I want you to do is I want you to take those hands and just keep pulling it all the way out. All the way out till you let it go.
Oh.
Now look around the room.
Okay.
Now go back and think about the memory that you just did on a 3 to 4 level. As you drop down into that memory now, notice the emotions and feelings that were there that were negative before have now dissolved.
They have.
The memory is now neutral.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've created a series of steps that allows us to progress to where the next process that I would teach does memories in the 5 to 8 range. And that's the work that I did for 30 years. I got people prepared to where they could really work on what they're doing, because out of all my research, I created a program called Restoration. Yeah. And what Restoration does over the course of 2 days, and it does take 2 days, is takes you to a place where there's not a memory you can think of that still bothers you. That's phenomenal. But again, I've been doing it for 3 decades, so that success is there, not brand new. What I didn't have was a fast way of doing memories like you just did that one, because that was like 20 seconds of work.
Nothing. Yeah, it's great.
June 6th of 2014, I'm riding on a plane heading to New Orleans, and I had already started writing the book Healing Memories in Seconds. In fact, it was 6 ways that work. I sent it to an editor. I thought I'd get it ready to go to print, and it was about ready. And I happened to say to that creative source, if you want anything else in it, you'll have to give it to me. And lo and behold, I closed my eyes. That's it. And when I opened the back up, I had another whole process. So what's happened today is I've not only learned that when you look at all the other therapies that are out there, there are wonderful things. Yes. But for some reason, they don't work for everybody. You know, when I trained in like tapping, are you familiar with tapping?
Yes, I am.
When I trained with tapping, I trained with Roger Callahan, who is the original creator of what was called the Callahan technique. Today, it's about 50 techniques, but it's still the same thing. So understand, you're tapping on an energy meridian.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a meridian at a time. When I looked at things like EMDR, which by the way is 80% successful, tapping runs about 60, but EMDR is 80, I realized it's really great for what it does, but still when it's the other 20% of the people, when it doesn't work, where's the help?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
As I began to think it all through and realize what I was coming to, I realized you have an energy meridian that runs from your little toe all the way up to your brain and down and out your little finger. You have another one that goes to the next, the next, the next, the next, and from your big toe to the thumb. So in reality, if you put your hands together, which you don't have to there, but if you did, realize that's the central meridian, the central energy field of your body.
Mm.
Likewise, there are transverse meridians that run across the hands. And what they do is they still cover everything from the top of the head to your bottoms of your feet. What I was understanding that as long as those meridian of energy run, and they run consistently, and it changes with each heartbeat, what would it be like if we learned how to hold that energy field together longer so that as we held it together and composited it, what would happen if we held a negative memory in mind and that positive energy field that's truly who we are in wholeness got powerful enough so that what you were holding in mind, how strong would that energy field have to be to pull the negative charge out of the memory?
Mm.
The process that I developed allows us to, in about 20 seconds, to pull the negative charge, doing it by yourself, on any memory, all the way to and including post-traumatic stress disorder memories.
So let me ask you something very important.
Yep.
Because I really do care about the people of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Why aren't we doing this in prisons, in with troubled children, in orphan? Why isn't this being shared with everyone? We all need it. There's so much need.
I actually started doing certification trainings in February of 2016 in the U.S. There are 260 pages to the manuals that are involved in teaching not only this piece of memory clearing, but also how to do the 2-day program that does your entire life. What we're talking about with the process called Soul Link, and that's the memory healing process, what we're talking about with that piece is so powerful because it does a memory. Mm-hmm. Since the beginning of the year now, we've really worked with about 8,000 people. Whoa. With 100% success. Wow. In seconds, with them either learning to do it on their own for themselves, or a therapist or somebody who's trained is doing it to them with the same end results.
That's phenomenal.
Now that's one piece. So what is it going to take? It's going to take a lot of people trained. PBS approached me 2 years ago, and I told them until I have enough people certified and we can get an absolutely wonderful double-blind study done, they really want to hold, because I can't handle the people that come forth now. Mm-hmm. Right now, my time literally is full-time training, literally. And they're asking all over the globe. All of this, I've got 6 weeks coming up beginning March 1 in Australia. It'll be my 5th trip already. So the whole globe is waiting for what this is, because there has never been a therapy as powerful for all the pieces that I put together that does what restoration, the 2-day program, does over time. Solely in the process of doing a memory the way it does a memory is just one piece of what I want a person to look at, because you have your entire life. Yes. What would prevent me from staying healed? The history of everything I've been through. What you pay attention to becomes your reality. Right. That's why I tell you I had MS. That's the only way I'll ever talk about it. Right. Let me give you another piece. When I teach this certification, now, number one, they must do the restoration 2-day class before I'll allow them to do any certification, because it's all about you, and I'll guarantee you, on noon of the second day when I offer them a full refund, they just laugh because they realize how much progress they've made in changing their life. But now that's the prerequisite to the 2 certifications. The first one is the particular piece we just talked about, Soul Link and Awareness and Consciousness. The second piece in that training comes at the morning of the second day, and it's very simple. It's called Awareness and Consciousness. Let me show you how simple it is to have made a switch and look at your life as being that which is energy rather than being the physicality. Okay. Physically, in your body right now, find a minor memory that you can be aware of. A minor memory that you, not a memory, I don't mean a memory, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Find a minor feeling that you can be aware of. Doesn't matter where it is, but just make it a minor feeling that you're aware of. Okay. Obviously, if the only gift God gave us complete responsibility for is thought, and thinking is the occupation of life, In order for you to be aware of that feeling, there must be a part of awareness, even now, that's making you aware of the feeling, or you wouldn't feel it at all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's why I say the shift is to get out of the identity of being physical into the identity of being the energy of who you are. Because it's the only thing that's permanent and lasts is the energy. So now, knowing that there must be a part of awareness, as you feel the feeling, the part of awareness is not the feeling, and it's not in that location. It's somewhere else because it is a part of the totality of awareness and consciousness in you that makes you aware of the feeling.
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yes.
So is it possible now, within the framework of pure potentiality, that part of awareness would like to simply relax, unwind, or unfold and become a part of awareness and consciousness once more? The grin on your face told me the answer ahead of time because body language is so wonderful in this work.
I see.
Yeah.
So, in other words, if, for example, I was feeling a little bit of pain in my knees, so you're saying that that awareness of the pain is something that I'm actively holding on to, and that energetically I can release that idea.
Well, do this. You just gave a part permission to neutralize.
Yeah.
Check the feeling. Is it gone?
Yeah, it opens it up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You're beginning to get where it is that I'm at and why I teach what I teach.
Okay, so let me ask you another thing.
Sure.
We're talking a lot about things that, so to speak, already exist, memories, aches and pains that we've accumulated over time. So moving forward into life, how do you handle, I mean, life is a lot of stimulation coming our way. I mean, and we have to handle, there's a lot of flow and a lot of things going on. How do you handle that? And how do you coach people, I guess, to have a different take on things that are coming their way?
It's why you have to look at the fact that if there is any negative to it, you literally have the ability to neutralize the negative in seconds. If you understand that God promised you the desires of your heart, you can either sit and think about your past and create it all over again, or you can decide what you desire and manifest and create a whole new future. It's your choice.
Okay,
it isn't what happens that matters. It's always what you do with what happens that matters.
Okay, but let's say you're sitting on the bus.
Right.
The person 2 seats ahead is having a long and really aggressive conversation on the phone, and it's starting to bother you. So just walk through so the viewers can understand how you recreate your reality at that point.
It is so easy, because if I realize it's bothering me, guess what? It's bothering me because inside of me, if I were doing it, it would be bothering me. Because life's a mere reflection of what's on the inside. So for things to change, the change has to take place in you. So literally, I would use the process that I talked about, that I've created, that actually does those negative memories to the degree that it does it, and that feeling that I'm holding on to would not only dissolve, but whatever they're doing at that point would really no longer bother me.
Is that the one where you're focusing on it, let's say in between?
No, it goes much higher up, because again, there are levels to what I'm teaching and all that. I'm looking at Soul Link as a being taught to do. It's why it's an 80-page manual for everything that's there to do, but I'm teaching that person how to teach that work to others. So it involves what process you do that connects all the energy meridians. Let's look at it this way. As long as you can take and connect all the energy in the body together, and you can hold it together, let's say that you did that process of holding it together, and it took 20 seconds to neutralize your worst memory ever, okay? Mm-hmm. In doing that, if the heartbeat produces an energy field that's 5,000 times stronger than what the mind can hold, it's functioning at 100. That 5,000 becomes 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. Now again, all the energy won't hold, but if it takes roughly 20 seconds to complete doing the process using both of your hands to finalize the work, then that means that roughly in the course of somebody with a heartbeat of 80 beats per minute, 27 times they're holding on to the potential accumulation of that energy field. Mm-hmm. If that were true and you could hold it all, which you won't, but you will hold a major portion of it, it means roughly 135,000 pieces of energetic presence in a positive energy field you're holding together that is pulling the negative charge out of whatever you're holding in mind. If you look at power versus force, the power always wins. The negative cannot possibly hold on. That's why when a man looks at me and says, well, you don't understand. this memory that I'm dealing with is back in Vietnam, and I'm blowing his face off with a gun, 40 seconds later, you ask him, sir, if you should think about the memory now and drop right down into the emotions and feelings, can you tell me how they're at? And he says, no, I can't. When you ask why, and he says, I can't find the face. You realize something absolutely dramatic and a miracle has taken place with this particular man and his memory. This is the type of work that we're looking at. We're looking at the power of the creative energy force that flows through you that is actually your life being used as the energy by accumulating it, allowing it to grow together so that it pulls that negative charge that's out of the memory. Now, not only will it pull it out of the memory, it will also potentiate any memory. So if I say to somebody in the middle of the afternoon, you're really tired, all you have to do is think about, what's it like when I'm fully energized? If you do the process that I've taught you, guess what? You become fully energized all over again. It goes on and on and on. There is so much that's involved. There are so many things that you can do with so many trainings, and by the time they finish the 2-day certification training, they begin to realize, wow, what can't we do with what you've just shown us? I'll go all the way around the room, and I'll say to every one of them, I want you to think now and give me an answer of something that you really absolutely have desired to do in your life and you realize you've not done it. When they give me the answer, I say to them, okay, why didn't you do it? What for you is missing that if that piece was there, it would give you what you need in order to be able to do it? And they tell me what it is. My next question is always, okay, has there ever been a time in your life when you had that? Let's say it's motivation. Doesn't matter what it is. Ever had a time you haven't? Yeah, tell me what that time is. And they tell me. So then I say to them, okay, I want you to start running the process the way I've shown you to run the process of the soul link. But as you do, I want you to think about what you desire. And as they begin to go into there, I say to them, now I want you to remember that time in the past when you had absolutely the resource because you were doing whatever it was you told me you were doing. Now the process switches because they begin with one hand operating. Now they're going to go to their other hand. As they go to their other hand, I'm saying to them, now I want you to see yourself absolutely doing whatever it is that you said was your desire. And as you see yourself doing it, I want you to switch now and discover for yourself what are the emotions and feelings that you now get for having absolutely successfully completed doing it. Now, what did I just do? That is the complete process of manifesting being done energetic with the person in a minute. They'll look at you afterwards and go, oh my word, I can do it. Of course they can. Imagination is more powerful than willpower.
Yes.
The key is we connect imagination with all the pieces of resource inside of them by connecting it in the whole energy field of who they are so that it's not just a thought anymore. It's in the whole energy field connected, and now that whole energy field is connected, the complete process of having done it already successfully in the emotions and abilities of doing it, when you talk to the body next, the body says, oh, I've done it already. It doesn't recognize the difference.
That's the link. You're linking the knowledge, the confidence.
Absolutely. You're linking the resources that are already inside the person.
Yeah,
it's so amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
And yet most of the work that I do is always content free. I stay out of content as much as humanly possible. There'll be 6 to 8 people in a restoration class, and they'll look at each other afterwards and say, wow, and yet I still really don't know that much about you because I don't know what you had to work with. I don't know what you did. And if they sat afterwards and had coffee and talked about what they did in the processing, they'd realize, wow, I'm so different than you. I don't have your problems. And I don't want to hear them because I don't want to own them.
Right.
Realize that. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying about how do we deal with being in the present, hearing negativity, even if we try to avoid it, which I do, but still it does sometimes come our way.
And that's why you must recognize that the only reason it bothers you is because inside, if you were the one that was doing it, it would bother you.
Yes.
So then, therefore, neutralize that energy. Neutralize that energy. It does not mean that you now do it. No, you've learned the lesson. Time to move on. But when you neutralize that, then you'll realize, wow, I can actually love them. Because love will pull whatever it touches towards its highest potential. So as you look at all the pieces that are involved in all of this, and there's many pieces, running programs is another whole option that teaches you how to take anything that your body already knows how to do and do it correctly and correct itself, talking to the energy of the body and making the energy of the body correct itself.
Oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
I so want to do this.
Yeah.
I have 2 young kids. Do you do anything online? Are your programs available from
those,
the comfort of our homes?
Those that are absolutely certified have the ability to do what's called a 2-hour life-changing session.
Uh-huh.
They have those available, and those you can pick up and request through the Meta website. I literally had to stop doing them myself because I would have 4 to 5 a day, and I'm not getting anything else that I need to have done that begins to put the work out there and accumulate the people who are qualified and certified to do the work. So I myself, I'm really not doing them now. I'm certifying people to be capable of doing them, and that's big. But again, the training itself, once somebody does that, they realize, wow, I've got to do the whole thing. I've got to do my life. Why do I want to sit and work on one memory at a time when what I now understand is I do understand the energy shifted that much. I do understand I'm so different than when I began this conversation. And I want to take care of all of me. I want to invest in myself. I want to make me the thing that's of most value, because then I'm of that much value to other people.
Yes, I can believe it. Why don't you share with our viewers how they can get in touch with you, where they can find you and do some of this wonderful stuff?
Well, again, the name is simple. It's Gary Sinclair, Gary Sinclair. If you add .com, that directs directly to the corporate structure that owns the intellectual property, which is what it's all about. And they need to know I do have a patent on the work. I patented it because I looked at what's happened to all the other things that have become 50 different things and all the fights and all the other stuff that's going on. I'm sorry, I love living. I'm not love seeking. I'm not going to get involved in all the muck and mire. I'm going to make something that is 100% successful, that's successful and available by protecting it and putting it out there. The other one is I created a corporation called META, M-E-T-A. Stands for Memory Energy Therapy Association. That corporation now has intellectual property and is the training, ongoing developmental group and class of people that are putting the work out there. To find it as a website, it is memoryenergytherapy.com. memoryenergytherapy.com. My life story is on there. There's a lot that breaks down the specifics of the classes and trainings that are available. Right now, I'm booked out through to the end of May. It's just going to keep on going because the demand is there. Wow. But the key is these people, I'm dealing with people that have been in therapy for decades. You know, when a woman says to you, I'm doing like a demo night, and the woman says, I asked for a demo, and her hand goes like this. And I'm like, well, that sure indicates that you're ready and willing to do it. She's, well, I don't want to, mess up what you're doing because I know it won't work for me. And she goes on with this whole explanation. I said, well, how about we just try? Can you do that? And by the time we did what she was dealing with the memory, she's in tears because what the room doesn't know yet, and I don't know, is content free. What she finally describes is at 3 years of age, she was taken to her grandmother's because she was so sick that she couldn't go on the trip with the family. But what the family didn't know was that grandmother was a big, heavy-set lady, and as soon as the family had left to go on that long, extended weekend, Grandma died on top of her. Grandma stayed on top of her through the whole weekend. So here she is at 76. She's never had a relationship with her life because she can't allow herself to have a relationship in life. She has a memory that she realizes even to this day is that strong and bothers her. So that when she saw the potential of somebody who dealt with issues like she's had decades of therapy on that didn't work, she thought, I'll at least go listen to him, but I know it won't work. At least give me something to do. And that's what the way she thought about it. 40 seconds later, because I did the process to her, she's standing there saying, this can't be real. It's like it's something that happened to somebody else. Right. But I know it was me.
Yeah.
It's so different.
It feels like rebirth, actually.
Yeah. She came back to find me the following day and said, I just have to tell you, you don't realize how much you changed my life. I mean, I'm 76. I woke up during the night and realized for the first time ever, I had a thought that I can actually have a relationship and they're not going to die on me. Think about what she's been through. Now, again, add in there, she's already talked about the decades of therapy she's been to. She's had EMDR. She's gone through tapping. She's gone through the modalities out there that, quote, do work. I'm not against them. If we can fill in the blank and make it work for the rest of the people, just send the rest of the people. From that standpoint. But what I know is there's 600,000 people in the U.S. that are trained in tapping. 600,000. What's going to happen when they find out there's something that's 100% successful and proven it? There's a medical peer review that came out in the International Journal of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, and that was one of my connections with Linda Seacrest, the editor for Natural Awakenings, and why she took all the certification training. That medical peer review is on 2,200 people who did the work for themselves. 95% of them, it neutralized the memory doing it the first time. The other 5 people out of 100 had to run it the second time, but the second time made it completely done.
Wow.
When I teach those that are in the profession or looking to train to do the work, how to do it to or with somebody else to do it to them, oftentimes it's 70% on the first go-round. Then whatever emotions and feelings still remain, they've dropped from like a 10 down to a 3 or a 4. Whatever remains, you do the process again. 25 out of 100, it will be over with. There will still be roughly 5 out of 100 who have got the most gut-wrenching stories that you never ever want to hear, and I tell them, I don't want to know, it's only yours. You own it, I don't want to. That 5 will get the success they need on the 3rd pass. And we're done.
Wow. Wow.
So obviously the emails that I get from people are just, it's awesome. I remain in awe. I'd go through everything I went through all over again just to have the pieces of the therapeutic work that I'm doing today. But remember, the key is we all recognize ourselves as being the identity of the physical person.
Right.
You started as one cell. There is now a community of billions of cells who are bonded in a community. But they're no different than this community I live in. They're bonded as a community. You, as an identity, are not the body. You're using that structure that you've grown and developed to house and contain that energy field that's beating inside of you and producing the entire field around you that causes you to have the ability to change. Yeah. And when someone goes with it to me with that restoration class and realizes by noon their life is completely changed, their perception of themselves is totally different, they've actually made a decision to be love living for the rest of their life. Now it's all about what has been there already that we need to change and neutralize so that they can, in fact, have the life they truly desire. So all that gets added into the rest of the teaching over the course of the 2 days.
Wow.
Again, I've done it for 3 decades.
Beings having a human experience. My teacher, I had a spiritual teacher. She taught me that many years ago. But what you're doing is you're bringing a new awareness and new modality and a new tools to allow people to really create these miracles in their lives without maybe sitting at the feet of a guru for 30 years. They can do it in seconds, and they can do it now. And that's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story on my show. And I also want to thank you all for watching this episode of Paint Yourself into the Picture. If you love what you're seeing, and I'm sure you do, please stay in touch. My website is rebalinker.com. My Facebook group is Leaders in Self-Love. Please let us know how we're doing. I love reading your comments, and please subscribe and like the video. Join us again next week for another conversation.
And love yourself.
And love yourself. Until then, remember, it's your turn to shine. Learn how to paint yourself into the picture, because this is how we heal. Blessings.